I can't help it. It's like talking with my hands. I'm gonna look.
and welcome to Funky Politics, empowered by the Kazuki Network. Funky Politics is a podcast that is our news, our narratives, and our way. And guess what? It's always going to be funky. So, always. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Alta Stewart, and Terrence Patterson. Hey, how's it going? It's my first in-person together appearance, I guess you should say.
Yeah.
I don't know how long. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah. Good to be in the room with you.
That's right. The room where it happens. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, so tonight, our live is actually a very special one. And we have some very special guests that I'm going to let Terrence introduce.
That's right. That's right. And today's episode is all about young, elected, and black. Young, elected, and black. And with us today, we have two black mayors, young black mayors. First, we have Brandon Scott, who is the 52nd mayor of Baltimore. Formerly, he was the president of the Baltimore City Council. And we also have with us Marco McClendon, who is the 13th mayor of the city of West Memphis, Arkansas. Prior to becoming mayor, he served on the city council for 16 years. And I believe when he was elected back in 2003, he was the youngest in the state of Arkansas. So these two brothers are truly young, black, gifted, elected, fill in the adjective, but these guys got it going on. And in addition, we have Ryan Wagner with us, who's also going to be chipping into this discussion. So good to have Ryan with us as well. Ryan, what's up? You all right over there?
I'm good.
Don't sound so excited now. Look, I need you. Did you bring matches today? did you bring matches?
I did.
Okay. All right. We got matches. Okay. Mayors, how are you both doing? Good to be with you.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. Thank you guys for being with us this evening. Look, I want to get this conversation going. And actually, before we do get the conversation going, I do want to say that unfortunately, Mayor Lumumba from Jackson, Mississippi was unable to make it this evening. He was a little under the weather. So we'll move.
We're definitely going to have another conversation
Absolutely.
with him again.
We have got to do that.
He's
We've
been
got to do
great,
that.
and we look forward to talking with him.
We've got to do that. And so I want to kick the conversation off by asking both of the mayors this particular question. Look, you guys are new school brothers. In your 30s and 40s, you've been in politics for a while, so certainly you understand what it means to balance kind of the traditional long game plays and sort of dealing with old school politics while still bringing this fresh perspective. So can you guys talk a little bit about how you navigate between the old school politics game and then the new school approach that you guys are bringing to your offices?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hey, it's a different experience. In today's age of politics with social media and having internet involved in every decision that you make, compared to some of the individuals that you around are 20, 30 years older than you are, and they still feel like you're supposed to do things the old way. It definitely has to be a balance, has to be a give and take during that situation to make sure you can get some type of balance between both, because the young people are very interactive, but to some of them are less active to get involved as well. You may have some of the oldest may be a little less active, but you can pretty much know when it's time to go to the polls or get involved in anything politically, they will be there. So it's just a balancing act, giving and taking and doing what's necessary to be a part of both cultures.
Yeah, Mayor Scott, what's your take on balancing the old school and the new school?
We lost.
Yeah, I think we lost Mayor Scott, but as you were giving your answer, Mayor McClendon, what really comes to mind from my standpoint is just thinking about your proximity to the city of Memphis in Tennessee, and in terms of your leadership, and how does your leadership intersect with Memphis, given the proximity that West Memphis has with the city of Memphis?
'Cause I'm more of a public servant compared to being a politician. I try to lead with my heart. I try to do the thing that's right and necessary for my community. We must understand, in my proximity, especially to Memphis, it's a large African American community. And honestly, you have a lot of people within that community that need a little more than some other uh, ethnic groups that may be surrounding. So you have to pull in a little bit more what may be needed compared to what it doesn't. But you still got to have a balance to be able to govern and help all peoples of the community, whether they're black or white. We have some poverty issues here in the city, but as well, we do have a higher income part as well. So it just depends on who you come into contact with. And as long as you treat them all fairly, I think definitely we can make things go. Like, people think that West Memphis is far from Memphis, but actually West Memphis is closer to downtown Memphis than North, South, or East Memphis. So, we can actually walk right across the bridge and be in a whole nother city, like small town living with big city advantages. So definitely, with dealing with the demographics like that, you got to be well versed and well around to be able to deal with all people.
And Mayor McClendon, just speaking of that, and when you spoke about the poverty rate, West Memphis does have a higher than national average poverty rate, but you've installed programs like giving away $200 for as an incentive for getting a vaccine, but then also giving away baby formula during this latest, during the shortage that people have experienced. Why, is that because you're leading from your heart? How does your city council, how do other leaders perceive this? If you say that you have poverty rate, but then you have people that make higher levels of income. Have you seen any friction?
Well, no, definitely you have to try to be creative when you helping people within your community. Like West Memphis have a 24.5% poverty rate. But we have the best of both worlds, because actually, this like a 2020 hindsight. But we have countless of jobs that are available here in the city for people to take advantage of. And the people that does want to work, they will work. And then you have some that probably not able to take advantage of an opportunity to take advantage of that. So what we try to do, we try to help those that are really in need. Like when the baby formula came up, we were blessed by some of our private industries that was able to donate us Similac milk and different things like that would go deep into a community that really needed it. And those with the impoverished families of individuals who can afford that milk, as well as with COVID, more than just the $200 of giving people $200 for the shot. It was more of educating them on the importance of being vaccinated to keep them and their family safe. So giving the $200 was more of like the cherry on top compared to educating them and making them understand what was the importance of us being safe during this time.
Well, if I could, Mayor, I just have to say thank you on behalf of those of us who are, I think what y'all consider the old school, because your statement earlier about understanding the balance between what's going on now and who's pushing that agenda versus what some of us have been part of for a while, and recognizing how to pull those two together. That's a wonderful skill to have in a young elected and black official. So I just want to say on behalf of my generation, thank you for recognizing that. But you've touched on the healthcare issue. And I'd like to push a little bit more about that, because we are right across the river. And, from a healthcare standpoint, the Memphis, West Memphis, Arkansas is part of that whole tri-state healthcare community. What do you see as some of the current challenges around making that healthcare relationship across the river with Memphis work better for West Memphis?
Well, I think one of the things that we are doing is educating and also accessibility. One thing that I can say, the city of Memphis has done a great job, especially opening up all their facilities, especially Region 1 to West Memphis. If we had any type of trauma situation, we was able to come there, as well as definitely working with many organizations that offer education for us, educating us in many different needs of the health industry. They have always been open for us, as well as we continue to push it on this side, because we know, dealing within our community, we deal with so many underlying illnesses, that affects us in so many different ways. And many people don't like to talk about it, but like when we had the COVID conversation, I talked to many people. They were worried about high blood pressure within the Black community, heart disease, many different other illnesses that we had to go along with that. And COVID was a killer to our community, and it affected us at alarming rates. And just being able to educate, talk about it, feel safe about it, being comfortable with it, and looking at the options with the vaccination is something that we had to definitely take advantage of. That's just one part of when it came to the healthcare, but just being open and working with medical professionals that was able to help us spread that information to the masses. Because believe it or not, some people think that, I'm saying West Memphis, healthcare is not always the easiest means to get to here. You still have some people that can't get to the doctor, or some people haven't heard of something, or may have something that may prohibit him from getting that health care that they need. So it's not as accessible as people think it is. But the more we start to make it accessible and doing the new things that we are doing, I think it's going to be great. I got a new program that I'm getting ready to unleash next week. We're partnered with Matter, and I have a program I'm starting called Matter Cares. And actually, what Matter is getting ready to start doing is providing transportation back to the city of West Memphis. But any transportation that has to go where they going to a hospital or anything like that, taking the baby to the doctor, or senior citizen need to see the doctor, it's going to be free and paid by our office, because we know that they need to make sure they get all the medical attention that they could.
Oh, wonderful,
Good.
wonderful. And Mayor Scott, we're going to circle back to you. And speaking on the pandemic, you were elected mayor during the height of the pandemic.
Right.
What has that experience been like, and what is it like shepherding your city through these times?
Well, listen, for me, I guess I was already elected, so I was in the thick of it to begin with. But I would prefer to not have had my first day in office be shutting the city down. But when you sign up for service, you sign up to do the right thing, not the popular one. And it has been a trying time, right? We know this pandemic has really changed the way the world is for everyone. My brother Mayor was saying, we were losing lives, and particularly Black and brown lives, at a high rate. And we had to step in and do things that, one, we knew were going to make people mad. For example, when we were having that discussion about whether we would put in restrictions and things like that, I remember, some of my communications team saying like, well, everyone's going to be so mad at you for doing this. And I said, well, there's one thing that you have to be in order to be mad. And they said, what's that? I said, alive. And we have to do those things to keep people alive. And when you add on top of the pandemic, the already existing epidemic of gun violence, the years of inequity, all of that really just made for a very tough time. But if it's one thing about Baltimore that everyone knows, is that we are resilient, we are gritty, we're always going to come out on the other side.
You're absolutely right. And I think that, before we lost you earlier, we were talking about what it's like being a young mayor, in a older city, so to speak. You've come through a long line, or follow a long line of mayors. What is it like now being the youngest ever elected to that seat?
Well, I guess I look at it in a different way, right? While I'm a quote unquote young mayor, the truth is I've been elected since 2011, and I've been in City Hall since 2007. So I have, closer to 2 decades of service than to one when you talk about that. And I lived in Baltimore my whole life. And what really that unique experience and that unique mixture of being younger, but also having worked here for so long and living here my whole life provides me the opportunity to see things that in a way that my predecessors didn't. I had to live through the 80s and 90s and early 2000s with, drug epidemic, heroin, crack, zero tolerance policing, the violence of the 90s, all of those kind of things, disinvested in schools. I've been working in city government to see and learn exactly what my predecessors did, the things that I can stand on their shoulders of, and the things that I need to totally rebuild. And it just provides me to be in a position that no one else would have been, because it's that unique mixture. You don't often get someone who, I was 36 when I took office, who's 36 years old with over a decade experience in what they're trying to do. And it just allows me to focus on what I always say is the right thing, and being able to make those decisions, even if that decision is going to negatively impact me politically, because we can't afford to have that anymore. Not just in Baltimore, but across the country. We've had mayors and elected leaders who have worked in a way where they do things for 3 years to get reelected in the fourth, never thinking about 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the line, right? And what I am not going to do is what folks did to me, and that's kick the can. We're going to make those tough, hard decisions, start to get at the issues that we have in our city, from violent crime to how we operate a 21st century efficient and effective government, tackling all those issues in new, innovative ways so that the young folks coming behind me won't inherit a city that is as dysfunctional as the way that I inherited.
You know what? And that's a great way to go into commercial break at this point, because both of you hit the nail right on the head, during this first segment. But we do have to take a quick break to pay some bills. And we will be right back with Funky Politics, empowered by the Kazukian Network. Thank you for joining us.
Kazukian.
The company is based in Memphis, but it is international.
A new building, an expanded team, new equipment, a new studio, all inside of 7 years.
The resources that we were able to utilize with Kazukian and their team has been incredible. And our partners at Kazukian has been a large part of our success.
One, it's Black owned. So we get to tell our own stories in our own way. I'm so proud of the founder, Larry Robinson, and his entire family and all of the team here at Kazukian.
We are so proud of their progress that they've made here in Memphis.
With social media and the technology we have today, the world is listening.
Kazukian. Check out all your Kazukian favorites now. Download the Kazukian app, available on Android and iOS.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be the journey. The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey.
Success in life is not a straight line. There are twists and turns in everyone's life, and the more you know about their story, the more you'll understand the process.
I was about 14 years old.
About 14, you decided you were going to go in the radio.
14, ninth grader.
The Kazukian Network proudly presents The Journey, a show that features successful black men in Memphis, telling their stories of their lives and the ups and downs they've encountered on the road to their ultimate success.
Went to arts and tried to do corporate America, became admin assistants, personal assistants. I did so many different things. It's a zigzag.
We believe The Journey will encourage young men and help them see that life is a journey. Watch The Journey, hosted by me, Larry Robinson, on the Kazukian Network.
and how it is improving the work you're doing in Baltimore.
So you had to repeat the question. You guys' sound was out, so we couldn't hear you guys until you said both.
Okay, yeah, no problem at all. Question was, can you talk a little bit about the smart policing initiative that you have in the city of Baltimore and how that's improving and enhancing the lives of your constituents?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. I think that we all know that in our country for a long time, we've been overdue to reimagine what policing is and what that looks like and responsibility of our police officers. For us here in Baltimore, after the unfortunate death of Freddie Gray, and with us entering into a police consent decree that we asked for, which is a unique situation here in Baltimore, we really started to think about how we can reimagine what public safety and policing looks like. And this smart policing program that we're doing is a part of that. Because we were already a city that was starting a 911 diversion, because in a city that has Johns Hopkins and the University of Maryland medical system, some of the best behavioral and substance abuse workers in the world, it makes no sense that we're sending police officers out to those 911 calls immediately. We have to evolve. But also when you think about with the ways that folks can report crimes online and over the phone, and allowing us to have civilian doing some of that admin work and follow up. What it does is that for us, it allows us to get the residents the assistance that they need in the most quick and most efficient, most effective way, but the most appropriate, and also then allows our actual sworn police officers the ability to actually be out there building relationships with the neighborhood, focusing in on violent crime, focusing in on things that are happening with folks that shouldn't have illegal guns and getting those guns off the street versus being involved in every single minor thing. We don't have to do it that way anymore. And when you add that on top of our efforts to civilianize our police department, the reforms we've made through our consent decree, our police redistricting, it's really helping us to operate our department in a 21st century way, allow our resources from the sworn side to be focused on our epidemic of gun violence and the things that they can do here, like improving our group violence reduction strategy, where we're working with those who are most at risk of being a victim or perpetrator in our most violent district, as we look to expand that work to have the deep impact on public safety that we can.
Yeah, that's
Mayor Scott,
powerful.
do you feel pressure along with that, with all that you have? As mayor, do you feel pressure to, I don't know, be perfect, but like be this great Black hope for this city?
Well, I put pressure on myself, right? So I'm an athlete, so I want perfection in everything that I do. If I go out and I shoot 60% from the 3-point line, I want to know why I didn't shoot 70 or 80. So the pressure is always going to be there. Yes, we know that there's added pressure on me because I am from Baltimore. I'm young, I'm Black, and to be honest, because of the way the world is and what we've all went through, folks are hurting in ways that they haven't for many, many years, not just from the violence standpoint. We add the pandemic onto that, the economic fallout from that. There are folks who are always going to try to think that one person can solve it so quickly. But what I appreciate most about my residents here in Baltimore, so many of them, Black ones in particular, who say you're doing the things that folks were afraid to do, right? Thinking about how we can impact violence on the long term and not just the immediate. Not just saying that police are the only people responsible for dealing with it. This is why we now have a Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety Engagement, where we're growing our community violence intervention work. I put $50 million of my ARPA money into growing that work, where we have our violence interrupters, where we're focusing on trauma, where we're focusing on interpersonal violence. We're going to be doing that work as well, while we continue to see the support that we need. We're making a historic investment into our Recreation and Parks Department, $41 million going into capital improvements there, so that our young people and families are getting the facilities that they need. This is not a short-term game, right? That's the reality. When you're talking about our neighborhoods that have been suffering for so long, that were disinvested in on purpose in the city that birthed redlining to the world. when you talk about how you're having generations of folks who've been living with that trauma, you have to do both at the same time. Focus on the immediate while also building for the long term. Those two are not separate things. And as a mayor, you don't have the opportunity to pick or choose one. If you do, you're pick and choosing one because of pressure. And pressure should not push you to lead. Leading is about doing the right thing regardless of pressure.
And Mayor McClendon, like, back to you, West Memphis has seen some growth with the casinos and the cannabis industry now in full bloom. Like, what does this mean for West Memphis?
Well, West Memphis has always been the city that had opportunity to make itself great. You know, West Memphis is the only city in America to have 45 and 50 interstates, that have over 65,000 vehicles that come through our city every day. We sit right there on one of the busiest river ports in the country, which is Mississippi River. We have all 4 major railroad stations and 15 miles from FedEx. So we have every means of distribution, have countless amounts of land. We have the largest mega site within the state, which is a 2,000 acre mega site here in the city of West Memphis, and the largest in the state of Arkansas, which you'll be hearing some real big news from that very soon. So, I mean, with all of the economic opportunity outlets, it's not just the casino. The casino has grown, and definitely has grown because they have given so many people within our community and our region an opportunity to earn the necessary dollars. I can't lie, Southern has been a good philanthropist to this community, helping to do a lot of things for us socially within our community that's much needed. But different industries that I heard that's continue to contribute. We got more jobs than we got people, and I know that's a good situation, you know, to have. But
That's
you
a
know,
very
just
good
trying
thing.
to get the people to necessarily want the job. So with all the land that we have available and all of the credit incentive that we are doing to try to help get more people here, to work here, to live here, that's going to definitely change the trajectory of how our city continues to run. And just being that small brother to the city of Memphis is an asset for the city of West Memphis that I continue to take advantage of.
Yeah, you know, as both of you guys are talking, like what is resonating for me is that you guys are young in this game. You're speaking a language that is focused on the future, but you also have the proximity to the work because you're from these communities. And the other thing that I heard, and I'm hearing it from you, Mayor McClendon, and I heard it explicitly from Mayor Scott, is that you guys don't see these jobs as places you're going to be for 10 or 15 years. Whereas maybe in previous political iterations, these are the types of roles that folks just sat on and they have forever. You guys are truly focused on change and impact. And you know, I don't know, Ryan, from your standpoint, as you look across the entire country, are you seeing more young, black, talented mayors that are cut from the same cloth as these two gentlemen, or are these guys really standouts or anomalies when we look across the country in our predominantly black communities?
I am seeing a lot of young people running for office and not really listening to, we call them gatekeepers in the work, tell them to wait their turn anymore. That time has come and gone. And I think that's really refreshing to see, given the political environment we're in and the economic environment we're in. So I've definitely been seeing it firsthand here in Florida and other places that I focus in my policy work. So I definitely think there is a movement, a youth movement in elected offices. And I'm of the belief that all voting is local. Everything that impacts most of us starts in these city councils and county commissions and mayoral offices and budget committee meetings. All these things directly impact us day to day versus what's happening in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and I have an question for the two mayors. You both serve as mayors in states that are led by people, I'm assuming, that's on the opposite party as you. we talked about the old school and the new school, but how is it working to get the things that you need for your people in working with, your Republican governors?
I guess I can start there. I guess for me, I'm a little blessed, even though I have a Republican governor. The truth is that with the high numbers of Democrats here in Maryland and our General Assembly, we pretty much, that's who we go to, right? We have to override.
You got a black woman, right?
We got Speaker Jones as we're blessed. We got a black woman as the Speaker of the House, and the Senate President is from Baltimore.
Yeah, sure. Griffin, yeah.
Senator Ferguson represents Baltimore. So for us, we're able to do that, but it's still difficult, right? If we had a governor who really cared about the city, didn't try to use us as a political punching bag, who just, wanted to focus on building it. For example, one of the first things that Governor Hogan did after being elected was give back $1 billion of federal funding that would have built a new subway line in Baltimore, right? Imagine what that would have unlocked for our city. It makes it very difficult when you have those folks, which is why we are blessed to have our General Assembly here, because they know how important the city is to our state, but also why we're blessed to have the congressional delegation that we have and the partnership that we have there. It's because in many times we just go around them and go straight from the federal government to us. I was on a panel today at the behest of Secretary of Labor Walsh, who used to be the mayor of Boston, and we talked about the importance of the federal government not giving money to states to then give to cities and giving straight to cities. And this administration has understood that more than any, because they've seen how that has happened.
Now in Arkansas, what's going on in Arkansas?
Well, actually, I definitely have to agree with the mayor. 'Cause first of all, I have a governor here that actually feels that West Memphis is actually in Tennessee. And sometimes I feel as if he don't even recognize that we are literally in his state. And what I had to do is outsmart them, I guess, bring so much attention, do so many great things, work with this council, our local state officials, to make sure that we bring their attention that garners and makes him have to come and pay us some attention to get a lot of things done. In Western Arkansas, it seems like that's where all they focus at. That's mostly what they think of. But when you got this great light that's going on in Eastern Arkansas and things are steady happening, I'm a man of faith. I keep praying. I see God continue to keep showing up and showing out and making things happen. It draws to the attention where he have to be a part. He got to come in and step up and try to help us on this side of the city. But we have to keep grinding. The mayor said something that resonated with me real important. He said, we as a generation that can continue to keep kicking the can down the road, we have to address our problems. And I think right now, one of the things that's helping me here in West Memphis is that we are finally addressing all the needs of our city. And even with that alone, on a smaller scale, instead of resonating on a larger scale and saying, hey, we are doing what's necessary. And then we taking advantage of the things that we are getting from the state. And that's the best that we can do to continue to move forward. But I just think greater things are continuous primed to come here.
Well, if I could, to both the mayors, I have a question that sort of encompasses both of your references to the fact that you are looking ahead. And I would agree with my co-host that it is so refreshing, and Ryan, to hear that from someone who is focused, who is seated and rooted in today, but focused on what it will be like tomorrow for people who are like you. I want to go back a little bit to that discussion around healthcare in general and ask both of you to share with us how you see dealing with the after effects, particularly of the pandemic, as it relates to how people are responding psychologically. Both of you have mentioned trauma, you've mentioned community violence, gun violence. These are all things that we know in healthcare are going to be challenging for a while to come. So talk a little bit. The smart policing suggests to me, Mayor Scott, that you're familiar with the way we hope 988 will improve access. And Mayor McClendon, it's clear that you have your finger on the pulse of your constituents around some of their needs as it relates to beyond the jobs and the economics and the political stuff, that you really see people and humanity. So can both of you just kind of share with us where you are with, maybe we'll call it your version of Obamacare, healthcare for all?
Yeah, I think for us, it's being a state that here in Maryland, we're blessed with the healthcare that we have and having one of the best in the state. And it's for us, it's also about that access, right? Because we now know that healthcare is changing. We here in Baltimore, we obviously have some of the best medical institutions in the world, right? Having Johns Hopkins here for me throughout the pandemic, to be quite honest, that made it easier for me than many of my fellow mayors, because the CDC was getting their advice from Johns Hopkins, and I can call them anytime I want because they're right here for me to lean on. But when you think about how healthcare is even changing, right? Access to healthcare, virtual health, all of those things, right? That means that you have to have the infrastructure to do that, which is why one of the things that we're doing, we put $35 million into creating internet access, broadband access in West Baltimore, our neighborhood that is so derived of that access to be able to get people there. When you talk about trauma-informed care and the investments we've made now that we are a trauma-informed city through the Elijah Cummings Healing Cities Act, where we're making those investments into organizations that are doing that work each and every day in our communities. That's the way that we have to do that. When you think about our community violence intervention ecosystem, right? When we're not only paying young women and young men who used to be those who are out there committing those acts of violence to intervene in that, but then now expanding that, to families, working with folks who are returning home to make sure that they're in the best health, physical and mental health space, so that they are able to come back and provide for their families. It's about an entire ecosystem that we have ignored for far too long, and this really is just the foundation of how we can build to be better.
Excellent. Mayor McClendon?
Saying, actually what we just done here in West Memphis, we just purchased our first internet backbone, where now we as a city are getting ready to provide broadband internet service to lower incomes areas within our city. But why that's so important, because mental health has been definitely a major problem here in our city. It's an issue that I wouldn't call it a problem. I say issue that a lot of people have not been able to understand. Actually, I know Baltimore is a much bigger city than us, but we just dealing with this past Tuesday. We just had a 2-year-old shot and killed, the first time we ever had that happen here in our city. And our city is mourning right now because the innocent baby just was killed due to innocent and senseless violence within our community. And just trying to talk with the people to get them on the same page, get the people to stand up. You have some people that don't want to talk because of this snitching thing and different issues like that. But you have a community that is mourning and hurting right now of the loss of that innocent 2-year-old baby. And I do understand that with all issues that we deal with, mental illness has a lot to do with a lot of the senseless violence that we do have that's going on within our community. So being able to help amp that up and get them the necessary help that they need, being able to provide the services that they're being able to need, is going to be definitely important to ending it and healing our community, so that we as a community can continue to grow from it and not accept these acts of violence that happen within the community.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot to digest, and another great segment. But it's a lot of information that was shared, and so we have a lot to pick up on our next segment. But we're going to take a quick break to pay some more bills, and so you are watching Funky Politics, empowered by the Kazukian Network. We'll be right back.
Kazukian.
Milwaukee is based in Memphis, but it is international.
A new building, an expanded team, new equipment, a new studio, all inside of 7 years.
The resources that we were able to utilize with Kazukian and their team has been incredible. And our partners at Kazukian has been a large part of our success.
One, it's Black owned, so we get to tell our own stories in our own way. I'm so proud of the founder, Larry Robinson, and his entire family and all of the team here at Kazukian.
We are so proud of their progress that they've made here in Memphis.
With social media and the technology we have today, the world is listening.
Kazukian. Check out all your Kazukian favorites now. Download the Kazukian app, available on Android and iOS.
This is a journey.
Let me take you on a journey.
There will still be the journey. The journey.
What is it that moved you?
The journey.
Success in life is not a straight line. There are twists and turns in everyone's life, and the more you know about their story, the more you'll understand the process.
I was about 14 years old.
About 14, you decided you were going to go on the radio.
14, ninth grader.
The Kazukian Network proudly presents The Journey, a show that features successful black men in Memphis, telling their stories of their lives and the ups and downs they've encountered on the road to their ultimate success.
Went to the arts and tried to do corporate America, became admin assistants, personal assistants. I did so many different things. It's a zigzag.
We believe the journey will encourage young men and help them see that life is a journey. Watch The Journey, hosted by me, Larry Robinson, on the Kazukian Network.
All right, Terrence. Welcome back to Funky Politics, empowered by the Kazukian Network. We are live. A great conversation. Two really impressive brothers leading important cities in our country. We found out that West Memphis had the most interstate traffic of any city in our country. Also learning about the great initiatives that are happening in Baltimore from Mayor Scott. Just grateful for you guys being a part of this conversation. I think it is inspiring as we think about the current generation of leadership, but also the next wave of leadership. So as you guys think about your legacies and going into the future, question for each of you, like, what is your legacy impact, or what do you want to be your legacy legislation when folks look back on your administrations and say, Mayor blank accomplished this big idea?
Well, the answer for me, my goal is not to be in office 20, 30 years. My goal is just to make it better than it was before I got it. Right here in West Memphis, there were so many different issues that need to have been addressed. And I think we have been doing on such a large scale, as well as continue to improve and grow our city. My main thing is just making our city a smart city, a technical city, as well as addressing all the infrastructure issues that a lot of cities go through, and just being able to deal with what is hand, but also while we're dealing with what is hand right now, being able to set up and prepare for the future so that next leader can come in and have a springboard, because I didn't have that. I came in having to fix stuff that should have been fixed over 30-some years ago. The mayor before me was mayor over 20-some years in office. And you notice they didn't too much spend any type of money. They didn't do anything that was necessary that needed for the city, I felt, in my opinion. So here I am trying to fix drainage issues, because, right here in this Delta, that's where we deal with a lot of flooding and different things like that. Getting us technology savvy, getting us where we need to be. I just want to make sure that I leave it in a better position than it was before I got it.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess for me, it very similar, but I'll start here. The first thing I want people to say about me when I'm done is that I led with integrity and discipline, right? That's it. That's the first and most important thing for me, that there was no scandals, none of those things with many of the things that we've been through. But also when folks look back at my time in elected office, one, I think that they'll remember me as being the person that, quote unquote, kicked in the door, because it was a long time before I was elected at 27. No one that young had been elected for over 20 years. And we kept hearing that I was too young to be this, too young to be that. And every time we were to push through that so that folks can see that behind me, I didn't just run through the door myself. I held it open so that so many more young Black people, women, others could come and join me here, not so that I could be here forever, but to have it and turn it over to them in a better state. From a policy and operation standpoint, these are the things that I hope to be remembered for. When I was council president, right before I became mayor, I made equity a law of the land in Baltimore. To try to undo that history of being the birthplace of redlining, so that we're investing in our neighborhoods in an equitable way, that our policy and practices across city government are looked at through a lens of racial, gender, and economic equity. So that's one thing. Two, that I built a new transformational city government, that I did the tough work of doing things that should have been done 20, 30, 40 years ago, putting systems in place, technology, infrastructure, and otherwise, so that someone can come behind me and be the best mayor that Baltimore has ever had, right? Because they didn't have to struggle and toil through work that should have long been done before them. And lastly, I want folks to say, this was the mayor that decided that we would rethink public safety, that we would reimagine it, that we would think about it not just in the lens of policing, that we would think about the community's role, health department's role, transportation, rec and parks, education, that we started to develop a comprehensive approach to a public health issue, which is violence in our city.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Ryan, what's on your mind?
All the things, Terrence.
Besides Florida burning. I know that's always on your mind.
It won't leave me alone. I'm trying to focus on other states, but I can't. I really like what I'm seeing, especially with our Black electeds, our public servants. For a long time, I felt like we had too many politicians and not enough public servants, right? I would always say that. There was so many people worried about losing their jobs in the next election versus doing what voters sent them to public office to go do. So I really appreciate both Mayor Scott and Mayor McClendon for taking time out to really talk about what's going on at the local level, because so much of our media focuses on DC, when it's really our cities and counties that impact the day-to-day. So I love what I'm seeing. So that's what's on my mind, Terrence.
Yeah, and look, Dr. Stewart, I see your wheels spinning like they always do. I gotta imagine you're inspired in just a different kind of way, right? Like your generation really laid the foundation for brothers like this to be able to be here. Yeah. And now for you to sort of see this at play in these two cities.
I have to thank you, Terrence, because my wheels were actually turning. And the reason they're turning, and I've got goosebumps, is because what I am hearing from these two and from what Ryan just said is apparently happening around the country in various places, is the movement towards transformational leadership. For so long, we have been mired in transactional leadership, where there was this quid pro quo that was the only thing that mattered. And as Ryan pointed out, in DC, we still see a fair amount of that. But if at the local level, and we are all in agreement that all politics is local, what I am hearing and what I am hearing them say that they are doing, and what we see evidence of in the way their cities are coming back to life, to understanding how to serve people as opposed to how to be a politician, that gives me hope. And we're in short, we have very little hope these days. You know, everybody is very frustrated and disenfranchised and feels like there is no hope. So these two young men today have refired my hope engine. And I want to commend both of them for understanding the importance of being a public servant, for understanding that transformation has to be our goal, and that anything less to this does a disservice to the people coming along behind us and the ones who have fought so hard, who have gone before us. So as I said earlier, as giving thanks to both of you for understanding how to craft the balance, as you said, Terrence, between my generation, and I ain't take it personally, but between my generation and this generation, I am thrilled to still be around to hear and see and interact with people who have the spirit and the passion and the energy and the knowledge that they are willing to share in the service of their public. So that's what was on my mind.
Well, and Dr. Stewart, and Jasper, I know you want to jump in here. I got to ask you, brothers, like, who are your mentors? Like, who do you pick up the phone and call in Dr. Stewart's generation? or are you guys texting each other, right? Like, are you texting other former young mayors? I'm really curious. I'm sure our listeners and viewers are curious. Who do you guys lean on? Maybe you can share one person that you guys lean on in particular each.
Well, I can't say one person. I can't do that for you. I will say that I do lean on my fellow young black mayors consistently. For me, there's one in particular that I always lift up because she's the only one that knows exactly how to feel like me, as St. Louis and Baltimore are the only two large independent cities. We don't exist in the county. So Mayor Jones in St. Louis, all of my young brothers and sisters who are black mayors, I look to them. And I talk to my former mayors, too, to get the advice of all of them that are still living with us.
Wow. Well, for me, I'm going to be honest with you. I still listen to a great mentor by the name of Dr. Willie Harrington over from Memphis, as well as that's my guy. It's what I look forward to building a new bond with this new mayor I'm on right now, Mayor Scott of Baltimore. This young brother gives awesome information. I think that I can learn a lot from him. It's definitely with the size of his city, because he's a much bigger city. We still dealing with a lot of similar same things, and just being able to share some of this valuable information and be able to learn from one another. I think that's definitely going to be great going on to the future. So thank you all for connecting us today as well.
Yep.
Good.
Hey, that's what we
Shout out to Funky Politics.
Right. Making connections.
That's right. We're bringing the country together.
Yeah.
One black man at a time.
I was just saying, one at a time. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And speaking of issues that are similar, like I live in the city of Nashville, in which I hope that both of you do plan to attend the National Black Caucus of local elected officials that's going to be there next month. And one of the issues that we are grappling with is the issue of homelessness. Mayor Scott, you recently announced a plan to reduce homelessness by housing 1,000 unhoused families and providing over 1,600 affordable housing units. How do you plan to do that? 100,000. Sorry, not 1,000, but 100,000.
No, it's 1,000. Oh, no, not 100,000.
It's 1,000?
Listen, right. You got to crawl before you walk.
You got to crawl before you walk. 1,000 is a big number. That is a big number.
Yeah, look, it's a big number. Look, we don't have 100,000 homeless people. No. And I think that we have to understand that homelessness and even displacement has increased drastically over the past 2 years and been exacerbated by the pandemic. Being a mayor, we know that many times folks are coming to our cities because that's where the services are. Our 2022 House America goal is to rehouse 1,000 households experiencing homelessness and to add over 1,600 affordable housing units. And we're already working towards achieving these goals by aligning our resources so that we can not just meet them, but we want to exceed them. So in February, for example, I announced that we were spending $90.4 million to invest in our short and long-term responses to homelessness. It includes $15 million in home ARP funds awarded by HUD, specifically to help us reach our House America goal, which is going towards assisting individual households experiencing homelessness and other vulnerable populations by further increasing stability and to develop more housing. And then we're doing also $100 million in ARPA funding allocated to city agencies for housing initiatives, including $50 million to generate affordable housing units, things that are going to be coming out of the ground consistently. Because at the end of the day, for me, our goal is to ensure that homelessness is rare, brief, and non-recurring for our neighbors. That's why we're expanding the work that we're doing, even with our eviction prevention, rental assistance, mortgage assistance, all of those programs to go alongside this great work that we're doing through our Mayor's Office of Homeless Services.
Rare, brief, and non-recurring. Now, those are words to live by.
It sure is. It sure is. In McClendon, I mean, McClendon, do you know what's your homelessness situation like in West Memphis? So do you see, is that not a problem for you, or is it a problem for the other side of the river?
Well, we have some homelessness, but it's not on the level. I guess it's being as big of a problem in a city such as Baltimore, Memphis, Tennessee, or something to that effect. But actually what we are trying to do with homelessness is make sure that we provide the resources where we make sure that the people that are in need of a housing situation are taken care of. And that's not necessarily the people being homeless. That's with home ownership, being able to reorganize our community where we have houses that have been torn down, that we are rebuilding up, to put in families that have never been a homeowner before, so they'll be able to have somewhere to stay per se. And for the issue of just those that being on the street, we got many programs that we use right now. Like we spending a little over $300,000 to make sure that any type of people that may have an utility assistance or being without their home, especially during this heat wave that we're going through now, or the winter time, that we'll be able to provide them with stationary places to be during those times, as well as giving them the necessary resources that they need to be able to get a home for a long time use.
Wow. Yeah. And Mayor McClendon, as the former president and CEO of the Downtown Memphis Commission, I do know that the city of Memphis has been doing a lot of work on improving its riverfront and doing a lot of development work. Can you share a little bit about, on your side of the Mississippi, how are you guys thinking about riverfront development and how it may be connecting with the work that's happening in the city of Memphis?
Well, definitely, downtown is a major site for this area. And on our side of the river, what we are doing, we are continuing to grow our big river crossing, which is our Bikers Trail, where we are going to make it the most natural scenic, probably during this route of the interstate, where you can bike, camp, I guess do whatever you want to do on that river, because it's designed to flood. So it's not going to be an area that it cannot flood at this point. I mean, the Corps of Engineers have already said that it's going to flood sometime during that March and June month when the river gets a little higher, or around the January month. But during that time, we're going to make it the most natural scenic area that you can have right off downtown. Once you come out of downtown and come right on across the bridge, just ride your bikes, camping, and enjoying life during the time it's available.
That's all right. That's all right.
Well, it was a lot we have a lot that's going on in our country to fix, and across in various cities. I'm going to switch topics a little bit and hit on and pick it up with Mayor Scott. You have maintained a solid approval rating of over 50%. And even compared to city council, and despite a slow economic recovery, what is contributing to your success? And do you feel any pressure, being that, under the cloud, you have some cloud of misbehavior or people who are being accused of things within the city? How do you maintain this level of trust amongst your people? Looking at how, some of people within our younger generation have become a little disillusioned with politics. How do you maintain that?
Well, for me, it's real simple, I think. People know what they're going to get from you, right? And I think when you've been someone, as a young lady said to me at African American Heritage Festival on Sunday, that I moved to Juneteenth weekend, she said that she feels like I'm her grandson because she literally watched me grow up on TV. So when you have that kind of deep connection with your residents, and they know that I'm not interested in the glitz and the glamour. They know that if anything, I'm just going to keep my head down and stay focused on the work. They know that I'm going to be there when bad things happen. I'm not going to shy away. They know that I'm going to say what I think. I'm not going to back down from anyone or anything. But most importantly, they know that I am going to do my job in a way that they know I will never cheat them, cheat myself, cheat my family's name, cheat my neighborhood that I grew up in, because I love this city too much. And one of my goals is to restore the years of broken trust. And I might not always make them happy, but they know I'm always going to be truthful and honest with them and do what's best in the best interest of the city, even if it pisses them off, right? I always say, and I'll say this to close, that what we need is more elected officials who are unafraid to be unelected because they did the right thing over the popular one, and that is something that I live by every day.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep. So, hey, Ryan, listening to all of this and knowing that we're coming up on a midterm election, what can we do? How can we bottle this energy up, from these two mayors?
The voting questions.
Here comes Nancy. And she brought her match.
Here we go. But I'll do it, Jasper. Go vote. Go vote. And I'm not just talking about your governor. I'm talking about judges, participating in your city council or county commission races. If they're on the ballot this year, you need to go through the whole thing. Look up legal precedent if you have to, if you are not sure about where a judge stands on the issues that matter to you. So primaries are coming up, and if you are not registered to vote, go register to vote. And also turn out. It's not enough to just register. You have to show up to the polls. You can't walk, crawl. If you need a ride, a lot of our groups in Florida, we offer rides to the polls, all the things. So really, there's no excuse.
And that's true.
Even though Ron DeSantis trying, but we making a way. One thing Black folks don't do is organize and figure out a way to vote regardless of what the Supreme Court says, what governors like the one in Florida and Texas are doing at the state level. But at the minimum, you need to know who's on the ballot. Do your research now. Start early. Don't wait till the last minute.
And if there are options on that ballot that are similar to these like-minded brothers that are young, talented, gifted, and can really move cities and communities, we need to make sure we're checking these boxes because you brothers are inspirational and you guys are getting it done.
Yeah.
Amen.
And before we close, Mayor Scott and Mayor McClendon, do you have any final thoughts you would like to share with the audience?
Well, I'll go first because I really do have to jump off. I'll just say that, look, for me, service has always been about Baltimore, not about me. And being in it as long as I have been now, and just being the person that my parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles raised, puts me in a position where I really don't care about how folks think about what you're doing or not doing. What you have to care about is how they will respect what you're doing in the best interest of them. This is not a popularity contest. This is about doing what's right for your people, doing the tough work, making those tough decisions. And sometimes someone has to be the person that opens that door and takes all of those bullets so that the folks behind them can live and thrive. And I'm willing for that to be me. But thank you all for having me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor McClendon, you have anything to wrap us up with? Final thoughts?
We lost him. I think we lost Mayor McClendon.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Oh, there we go.
There we
got
go.
you. We got you. We were just looking for final thoughts to take us home.
Sure. I agree exactly. One thing about being mayor for me, I don't worry about being elected. I worry about just doing the right thing. And as long as you do the right thing and you take care of your community and the mark that you leave is making it better for the children to come and the generation that was before you, that's all that you can depend on. I see so much politics going on. I get so tired of politics and people trying to necessarily stay elected for this time and have nothing to show for it. I feel that we got to do what's necessary, be a public servant, and be pleased with what we do. I mean, if I do 4 years, if I do 12, I'd definitely be pleased because I gave it my heart and I gave what I thought was right to make the city of West Memphis a better city. And I know it, looking at from where it came from, it's sure better now than what it used to be.
Hey,
that's all right.
That's right, and you're right. That's all we can really do, and all people should really expect. So I'd like to thank you, Mayor McClendon, and also thank Mayor Brandon Scott of Baltimore for joining us earlier, and also thank our friend Ryan Wagner, who is joining us from Florida, to give her perspective. I would like to thank my co-hosts, Terrence Patterson and Dr. Althea Stewart.
Appreciate you, Jasper.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Good to see you in person too.
Yay!
Another great show of Funky Politics, empowered by the Kazukian Network. And please remember to follow us on social media at Politics Funky on Instagram and on Twitter, and Funky Politics on Facebook. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.